All right, more on that top story now. Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi today giving updates on policies to deal with the employment of foreign nationals. And of course, there's a bill out at the moment for public comment, and it's talking about quotas in certain sectors. The Minister joins me now. Minister, thank you so much for your time. Have you actually identified which sectors should have quotas for foreign workers, or is that something that's going to come later?
Well, it's going to come later, but we already know that if you talk about agriculture, you talk about the hospitality industries, you're talking restaurants, you're talking about the security, and it has also started in the retail sector. Those are the areas where it is very serious. And you know that the truck drivers have also raised issues. They have also raised issues in relation to what they say it's a number of that, but our evidence is different. However, we are dealing with the issue of principle here to say, let's regulate this matter, because the issue of international migration, especially of the workers, it's an international phenomenon, which we will have to find a way of dealing with it in a constructive way.
Absolutely, because if you don't, we're going to see xenophobia rising. We're already seeing concerning signs of that, and over the years we've seen that foreigners tend to get targeted more often than not. Just talk to me about how quickly you can get this in place, and whether it's going to mean that foreigners, perhaps watching this tonight, might lose their jobs in South Africa.
Not necessarily. If we are working legally, this means we have to follow the processes of the law. Changing the legislation is not going to be overnight. We have given the document which was approved by the cabinet what we would call 90 days, starting from today that we have released it. We have gazetted it. Then we will allow for extensive and very broad consultations with the different organized groups, with the individuals who want to make the inputs, and we will allow them to make those inputs and collate all that information. And once we have collated all that information and we see what are the proposals and so on, then on the basis of that, we can be able to propose those quotas. In the meantime, or immediately after that, we would start the legislative processes where we have to change the Employment Act in the country to allow for this. But if we were to do that without amending the law, definitely we will be violating. Somebody can easily take us to court and we will lose that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to be correctly according to process. What's going to happen to foreign Uber drivers, for example?
We are very clear. Our position is very clear. We are saying people who have been employed legally and who are legal non-South African nationals, they enjoy those rights. In terms of the various protocols of the UN and the ILO, refugees in any country, and we have signed those protocols, they have the rights even to look for employment in order to support themselves. So all those issues will be able to they must be covered by those rights. They cannot just be fired like that. It's going to be a process to say, let's look at the numbers. Where do we put what we would call the quotas? And it cannot be just retrospective. We will have to deal with that.
So, I understand. Minister, you seem to have someone who's talking on your line while we're trying to talk. Hopefully they can hear me saying this, and we'll just not talk for a few more moments while we continue our chat. What's the deal, the proposal in this bill around whether a foreigner can open a small business in South Africa? And I'm thinking typically of a foreigner who comes to South Africa legally and wants to open a small spaza shop in a neighborhood. Will this bill allow them to do that?
These are some of the issues we have referred to the small businesses, that department is also going to be putting some proposals, because even that has to be regulated. And if you see or you observe what is happening in many of the rural areas, in the townships and so on, this has not been regulated. You'll see a lot of the Pakistani nationals.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you saying is, again, it's something around regulation. And this leads me to my next point. One of the biggest gripes is that undocumented foreigners who are inherently vulnerable will often accept a lower salary, less rights, because they don't have any recourse. They know that they're a bit stuck. And that surely is the Department of Labour that has to make sure it's monitoring those situations. I'm not sure. I think you've got something like 1,000 inspectors. I could be wrong on that number. Are you confident that you're able to fulfil that, which is a crucial aspect of getting the laws right and getting people who are foreigners, us being confident that they are legally here?
Remember, the issue of the people who have entered this country illegally is not in our mandate, it's the mandate of the Home Affairs. And Home Affairs is dealing with those issues. Home Affairs is dealing with the issue of the border management.
Would your labour inspectors not inspect the papers of someone in a workplace?
Our labour inspectors deal with the issues at the workplace.
Yeah.
So from time to time, we visit those workplaces. And once we find people who have been illegally employed, definitely we have to report that to Home Affairs. To remove them, it's the role of Home Affairs. All we have to do, we have to record them and pass them over to Home Affairs.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening. That's our Labour Minister, Thulas Nxesi.